There are so many myths out there about iron and how to increase iron. And from the videos I've already done on iron and the feedback I've got from lots of women, I find it hard to believe in this day and age that the medical profession aren't promoting the science of increasing your iron. See, going and taking a supplement or just eating some iron-rich foods isn't enough. Now, I'm going to cover details about the iron-rich foods and supplements and nutrients you can take to increase it, but without getting the right digestion and the right absorption, you're wasting your time and effort. So when you have iron-rich foods, which I'll talk about, what you want to do is make sure that you're having them in the right formulation at the right time, which is what I cover in my other videos, along with a couple of snapshots along here. When it comes to foods, we look at what's got the highest concentration, but what's more bioavailable. And heme iron, which is from an animal source, as in muscle or meat or organ, heme iron, the liver is by far the top, up the top there. Or the organ meats are very rich in iron and nutrients. You can get liver capsules, beef liver capsules, and a lot of people have commented on my other videos that that's what they've used and it's been very effective. So it's great to get that feedback. If you have any information or feedback, please put them up there, and I'd like to actually share some of those other stories along the line. So liver capsules, liver, oysters and mussels. You've got other seafood like sardines and tuna. Now, I'm a big fan of sardines. I have sardines pretty well 4 or 5 times a week. It's convenient, it's easy, it tastes good. But why it's so effective also is because it's rich in omega-3s, which lowers inflammation, which in a roundabout way I describe in my other videos. It increases iron absorption by lowering something called hepcidin. That's in the other video, check that out. So sardines are very effective. They're also rich in zinc and copper, which are also critical for the absorption and transportation of iron and the nutrients, literally for the conversion of the iron into the hemoglobin and other factors in the blood. So sardines are a great snack to have as many times as you can to up your iron. Then you've got tuna, beef, lamb, obviously turkey, chicken, and other forms of meat. Then it comes to the non-animal sources, which is a non-heme iron. And up the top there are things like pumpkin seeds. All your seeds and your nuts and your legumes, your beans, are great sources. So pumpkin seeds, the dried pumpkin seeds are called pepitas. They're one of my favorite little snacks. Hemp seed, legumes like tofu, beans, and cashews are rich. You're going to say, but hold on, don't they have phytates and things that block the absorption of nutrients? Well, they kind of do, but the phytates, if you watch, again, my other video on phytates and the benefits of nuts, you'll see that the phytates will bind to the nutrients already in the nuts, and then they'll also release it, literally, in the process of the gut microbiome fermenting it. So it releases it later. And the phytates are an important nutrient to help with lower inflammation and, in their own way, help with absorption. And one of the other studies that was done showed that people who increase their phytate-rich foods increase their iron intake, absorption, and ferritin levels. So nuts, spinach and kale, dried apricots and prunes which are dried plums. These have high levels, obviously, because it's a whole prune or a whole apricot, and it's dried, which concentrates, it takes the water out, but it concentrates those nutrients and lots of other nutrients in it. In fact, prunes are one of my favorite little snacks, along with sardines, not together, of course, but prunes are probably the single best food for osteoporosis. If you want to build bones, you eat prunes. You want to fix your gut, you eat prunes. So there's a little superfood for you. And of course, sweet potatoes and lots of other foods out there. I don't want to complicate it. The best strategy here is to just select 1 or 2 of these things that you like, you use, and add it into your eating program. However, as I've already highlighted, it's really critical to make sure you get the timing of the eating right too. If you're supplementing, you supplement first thing in the morning with iron. If you're eating iron-rich foods and not supplementing, you eat the iron-rich foods first thing in the morning, before exercise. From the other videos, you'll know your iron absorption is earlier in the morning, and your ability to digest is better in the morning. You've got all of these factors, and if you exercise, it lowers your ability to absorb iron as well. So you want to get up first thing, start having some sardines for breakfast before you start doing things, or whatever you choose to do. Then it comes to some of the superfoods that you can add in. And I've got a list of those I'll put up in a moment, but I thought I'd put some of the studies that have been done where they use powdered beetroot. And in this case, 8 grams, 20 days for women who are 20 to 24. Now, you've got to bear in mind that 50% of the female population has low iron. 50%. That's why following the strategies that I've outlined on the videos are so important to move that up. And again, the feedback on the videos has been fantastic. A lot of the women have said, I started taking probiotics and I've seen results, the right type of probiotics, which is Lactobacillus plantarum. And they've also, some have suggested they've taken lactoferrin and it's worked. So imagine what happens when you put them all together. You get a 200 to 300% increase in the levels being absorbed and used in your body. So coming back to here, beetroot powder, rich in lots and lots of nutrients. And they found that it increased hemoglobin, increased ferritin, and decreased total iron binding capacity. And that is an indicator when the total iron binding capacity is very high in the blood, it's actually suggesting that your stores of iron are low as well. It's just another one of the indicators. When they did beetroot juice, 200 mils a day for 6 weeks. Now, if you want, you can also add in some carrots, some kale, some spinach, anything else you want to change the taste a little bit, boost it up a bit, something that you're going to have every single day or frequently along with this type of stuff. See, the great thing here is the suggestion is have 2 or 3 of these, 2 or 3 of these, and 1 or 2 of these, and some of the other things I'm talking about along the way. So beetroot juice, see the female footballers, soccer players, and the female football players are exceptionally, or female sports women are exceptionally prone to low iron because sport literally puts stress on the body and lowers the ability to absorb iron by increasing something called hepcidin. I cover that in the other videos. That's why you always eat your iron-rich foods before playing any sport, not waiting till after. And so increased HTC, increased RBC, red blood count, iron, and ferritin. Then we've got on to one of my favorites, Moringa. And there's about a dozen or so studies I could find on Moringa. Cell studies and mainly animal studies. No human studies yet, but the studies on rats are very, very clear that it's very effective in increasing iron. In fact, they compared it to an iron supplement and it outperformed the iron supplement. Why? It had the same amount of iron, but what it did is had a lot more factors that increased the bioavailability, the digestion, and the absorption of it. And in one of the studies, they found that Moringa, this is a great little green leaf I get a Moringa plant out the back of my house. I've got a little garden, it grows there, and I get a supplement, and some friends have it in neighborhoods, big bushes of it, so I use it. I've also done a video on Moringa, so watch it. It's a real superfood that you can grow for yourself and use in lots of dishes, whether it's in salad, in soups, in stews, a whole raft of areas where you can just add some in, along with adding each of these things in. It had the highest bioavailability factor of all of the plant-based foods that they tested against, spinach and kale and a whole raft of other green veggies and iron-rich plant-based foods, and it was the one that had the highest bioavailability factor, hence why it was so effective. Other food concentrates that have higher levels of iron include barley and wheatgrass, which are about or just below the levels of the amount of iron in beef liver, if I use that as the standard. And then you've got the real winners, which are the microalgae, and these include spirulina, and they have about 40 milligrams per 100 grams. Now, that is 5 or 6 times the level you get in beef liver. So really good, really high concentrations, but it's also in an organic form because it's bound to protein, which makes it a little bit more digestible. It's anti-inflammatory, gut modulating, and decreased hepcidin. Now, hepcidin I've talked about in my other videos. That's the iron regulator in the gut, and it determines if iron's going to be taken in or not. And by decreasing it, you increase the ability of your body to take in more iron. Watch the other videos for that one. It's really important. So it decreased hepcidin. And in a study where they gave kids, these are school-age kids, for 8 weeks, 3 grams of spirulina, it increased hemoglobin and increased ferritin. The great thing is it doesn't cause all the nausea and other side effects that iron supplements do. And remember, iron supplements are generally about 10 milligrams. Here you've got 40 milligrams in 100 grams. So you only need a small amount. That's why they're using 3 grams of spirulina, and it had this effect. Now, another study on pregnant women showed that it increased hemoglobin and decreased anemia. And in a study on adults, it improved iron status. The problem with this is because there's no money to be made in these products, because they're produced all around the world and very cheaply, that they don't do the double-blind placebo-controlled studies that they do with pharmaceuticals. But the overwhelming research shows that reasons why and that they are effective. Then you get to the real winner. And this is a must-do, particularly for vegetarians and vegans, Chlorella. And another dark green microalgae, and the iron concentration is about 100 milligrams per gram. Now, that is 10, 12, 13 times. That's the average, okay? It goes up higher, it goes down lower. So that's a lot of iron in there. And again, it's bound in a protein in organic form, makes it easier. It's high vitamin C content in Chlorella as well, which makes it much more easily absorbable, which I've already told you many times in my other videos. It's gut modulating. It helps rebalance into a healthy gut microbiome. And the studies show pregnant women, 6 grams a day, that gives you an amount. People on these videos say, how much do you? This is why I put the studies up. They give you the information. 6 grams per day, 12 to 18 weeks. These were pregnant women, so they went up to term, and they had increased hemoglobin and increased ferritin as a result of it. Now, in a rat study, they actually compared Chlorella with iron, an iron supplement, iron or ferrous sulfate. And Chlorella outperformed the ferrous sulfate. What a great win-win situation there. Now remember, Chlorella is extremely rich in all your minerals and a great section of vitamins and phytonutrients. They are one of the really super foods out there. So I highly recommend it no matter what supplement with Chlorella. I do. And then finally, the herbs. And there's a whole list of herbs, a lot longer list of herbs, but I want to include ones that people will know. And the ones which are iron rich are nettle leaf, and that's the one that stings you if you go outside in a paddock or in my backyard in spring. It'll sting you and it hurts a lot. That's really rich in iron. You go, how are you going to use that? Well, once you cook it up a little bit in water, the sting disappears. It's probably a protein which denatures with the hot water and therefore doesn't cause any problems, but really good for you and really high in iron. So if you've got some stinging nettle in your backyard, use it. Otherwise, you can buy it from the shop or in a tea already. Parsley, which you would know well, and that can be added. Again, the great thing about what I'm suggesting to you here is you can add little bits in all the way along. So you're getting iron in each of your meals, but in a digestible, absorbable way. It's not, oh no, I'm just doing it in the morning. So you can add some parsley as a garnish. I have a great herb mix that I make up of my own homegrown herbs, and parsley is always included, dried, chopped up and put in there. Yellow dock, another one, curry leaf is very big in our family. My wife has Mauritian background, Mauritian descent, so there's a lot of curry leaf, probably at least 2 or 3 times a week curry leaf is put into the meals. Again, just adding it into the meals a little bit at a time. Ashwagandha, also known as withania, is a herb that you will generally buy as a capsule or a tablet. And another one, Angelica sinensis. This is another one that you'll get as a supplement you buy. These two are the ones you actually buy as a supplement. Now, there's a whole raft of Chinese herbs also. And the Chinese herbs are cocktails of anything from 4 to about a dozen different herbs. And I don't want to include all of them, but I do want to show you there's a lot of good evidence there on using the combination of cocktails. When you use a couple of herbs at the same time, you generally find that you get what's called a synergistic reaction. They build on each other, multiplying the benefit of it. So combining some of these things together, like I've said here, like I've suggested here, is a great idea. And the Chinese have been doing that for thousands of years very effectively to manage low iron, even though they probably didn't know exactly low iron 2,000 years ago. It's been around. So the top one that I found was, and please excuse my pronunciation. If you can please show me how to pronounce it better, do so. Si Wu Tang. It's a combination of 4 herbs, including Angelica sinensis. And then the other one I found that there were some good studies on was Dang Gao Bu Zhu Tang. You like my pronunciation on that one? I'll give it a go at least. And again, studies on both of these in the general population, particularly women, have already been done with children, showing they're effective in increasing the ferritin and increasing the iron and other parameters in there. So I've given you a great background, but it's not the only, all of just the information. There's more out there. Along with this, remember from my other videos, you will also need to supplement with the meal or with your iron supplement, vitamin C, ascorbic acid, preferably 2,000 milligrams a day, Lactobacillus plantarum V 229V, which is the one I've got a whole video just on that one because it is so effective, and the lactoferrin. Now, each of those, the last 3 that I've mentioned, increase the absorbability of around about 60 or 70% of increasing the iron in the blood and increasing ferritin. So you imagine those ones combined with all this information and then the other videos I've got. This is without doubt the most complete iron building program you will ever find out there, because it's brought together dozens and dozens of studies from lots of fields. So make sure you share this with your friends, tick the boxes, subscribe, and if you've got any questions, fire away.